So yesterday we talked about NVS, right? The network virtual assistant. Is it a logical component, or is it physical? Is another name for a load balancer?
No, it is not a load balancer. First in place.
Okay.
It is a firewall. Let's say you have fair bit of understanding how the firewall as a component or a name, right? You have heard of that, correct?
Right.
When I say so, let me show you the Palo Alto as a firewall, right? Are you able to see how it looks like as a physically?
Yes.
So we cannot bring the same component to cloud, correct?
Correct.
Physical component to the cloud. That's where what these product vendors have made is that they have virtualized this functionality as a virtual machine. If you create a virtual machine, if you turn on that virtual machine, that behaves similar to the physical component of your firewall device.
Right. The same, like when you talk about virtual machine, actually there is a physical hardware exists, but in the cloud we see as a virtual machine. So we can't see the hardware in it. That's right. That's my understanding.
This is also a virtual machine only, but within that virtual machine, your firewall component is embedded. And it functions along with the operating system component. You have your firewall component also available.
Okay, and clear. Understood. Meaning it's it's a logical term for a physical firewall.
That's correct. We cannot bring down the physical components to the cloud. That's where all this vendor business will go away, right? When the people start using cloud. So they should have alternative mechanism, right? That's where they said, boss, you don't need to depend on a physical component. You don't need to maintain a physical data center. I will give as a virtual machine also. You turn on this virtual machine, that behaves as a firewall. As simple as that.
Okay, meaning like here you are just referring to Palo Alto firewall, right? So we have Cisco. There are many. Oh no, I'm just giving just like next. When you talk about, there are multiple companies in the market, right? It may be anything, right? It may be anything. It doesn't matter what it is.
Correct. When it comes to an example only, I'm just referring Palo Alto, but in a real-time scenario, it can be anything. It can be a Palo Alto, it can be a FortiGate, it can be a Cisco, it can be a VNS, right? You name it, whoever is there in the market today as a firewall components or security components or WAF components, all these people, wherever you feel that I need a physical device to run the show, right? In each and every place, they have brought in the appliances.
Okay, that's called as like a virtual, maybe. So when you talk about whatever it may be to be, when you say virtual, it's like a cloud-based, setup, right?
Correct. When they're saying NVS means it's a virtual machine. It's not a physical device.
Physical,
but functional device both will do the same. There is no difference.
Okay, and setup will be from the same portal, Azure portal itself. There won't be any specific, portals to configure these networks, right?
No, as a virtual machine, yes, it will be the similar window only. You don't have any other window.
Okay.
But configuration part is on-premises or a cloud. They need to log in and do that. Window will not be changed.
Login where, like again into the portal.azure.com port, right? Right.
No, portal.azure.com will have a virtual machine as a service. Within that, you are running an application. That application you need to connect and do the settings.
Okay. Understood.
Whether you want to do it in a CLI, for example, you log into the VM, like as a Linux machine most of the time. So you log into the Linux server, do the setup.
Okay, the similar way what we do for the on-premise things. When we have a server in place, we'll do our setups and all in the Linux environment itself, correct?
Same. Once after you're done with the configuration, you will access that application via URL, correct?
Correct.
Understood. Similarly, you will also access your firewall admin panel or a configuration panel using an URL. You log in using username and password in their own Palo Alto URL page and then do the setup.
Okay, clear. Okay, in the coming classes we are going to talk about those as well, right?
No, as a security component, like we're not going to discuss because I'm not expertise as a firewall engineer.
Okay.
Right?
No, just to see where we need to put our hand to see what's happening. Not with the configuration setup, in the portal, right? So where is the piece, like which service we need to go for? That's it. Not with the configuration.
That's what I'm saying. So for a portal level, similar whatever we have done in previous sessions, right? As a virtual machines, it is similar. There is no difference in it.
Oh, okay.
The way you have created a virtual machine, it is similar. You can create a Palo Alto VM also. No difference in it. Right. This is also virtual machine only for us at the end of the day.
And we are going to use that, virtual machine to, while setting up our environment, right? For an application configuration time, like we are going to call the, network VM as well, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So these are all the virtual machines. Assume that for now, these will serve the application, right? So in subsequent sessions, when we get into the network, we'll talk about how you are going to access your workloads. Typically, we are deploying and then we are accessing today without discussing any other network layer, correct?
Right. Okay.
So in the subsequent sessions, what we will do, we'll talk about how you can access your workloads, what are the different ways of securely access your workloads, right? How you can control the traffic. If someone is, let's say in your organization today, you might be typing google.com, it is giving a response to you, correct? When you're typing naukri.com, it will not give a response. When you type facebook.com, some scenarios they will not allow, right? How they are controlling that? You are typing whatever the URL you want in your browser, but that is saying that it has been violating a policy, I will not allow. That's what you will get error page.
Yeah, right.
Right? Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah. We have a Zscaler here, so that similar thing what you are referring to, yeah.
Correct. So what typically they will do in the backend? So what they will do in and out your laptop, in and out your servers. What typically they will do? They will put up a roles. Send it to the traffic to a firewall, and then firewall, your security engineers will define a policy. If the request is allowed, you just allow. If you deny that. They will write on the policy based on organization standards. I'm going to tell you how you can do that as an Azure administrator. So how you can typically send that particular traffic, right, to your firewall. As an administrator, we'll see that part, and it comes networking.
Thank you. Yeah.
We call them as a route tables in Azure. We'll talk about that.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
So any other questions from a previous session? Okay. So in yesterday's session, we have talked about all the options which are all found under basics tab, correct? Like subscription, resource group, virtual machine category, regions, high availability options like availability zones and availability sets, security, spot instances, VM sizes, right? Typically, we have discussed in the previous session is that VM sizes. Those VM sizes are nothing but your general purpose, compute optimized, memory optimized, CPU, storage optimized, GPU, and then high performance compute, right? These are all the typical virtual machine sizings are available, and the sizings can be selected as part of your application requirement. So these sizes can be changed, no problem in that. Let's say you are selecting general purpose, so tomorrow you want to switch it to the compute or memory optimized or GPU optimized. Yes, well aware. You can go ahead and then switch the sizing under sizing window of your virtual machine. Okay. And then we have talked about administrator account of admin and administrators, right, will be blocked by default. You can allow only, other than these two keywords, you can allow any of your username based on your own wish. When it comes to Linux machine, we have talked about SSH public key generation instead of using manual one or automatically, which could provide by Microsoft as well. All right, instead of doing that, what we have done, we created our own SSH key in the previous session. With that, we have generated one key and then logged into the virtual machine. And then we have skipped this particular part of inbound rules, right? Port rules, 3389 and what it is and how it functions, all other stuff. For now, just have it like, for now, we're not discussing here in this particular area, but next couple of sessions, probably next 3-4 sessions, when we start our networking area, we'll have detailed session of what it is inbound port and how it functions and everything. Okay. And we also talked about licensing for a Windows machines. If you bring your own license, you could be having a cost benefit up to 49% of a benefit. But of course, you'll actually need to spend the money to purchase the license as well by your own. Till that it's clear, folks. This is all about basic step of your virtual machine. Now we are just entering into disk tab. When I say the disk tab, disk is nothing but if you just compare it with your local laptop or servers, you would be seeing the operating system disk, data disks, right? C drive, D drive, E drive, and F drive, right? Hope you guys well aware of this disks for your operating system. So this particular window is referring to the OS disk by default, right? So when it comes to categories, we have a premium, standard. In the standard, again, you have SSD and hard drive. Clear, guys? So what is mean by standard hard drive, HDD? It means it's typical to your SATA physical disks, right? Where it will rotate the spindle inside a physical disk. It will read the data and write the data, right? When it comes to SSDs, solid state drives, we'll call them as a solid state drives. When I say the solid state drives, it will works with the chip based, microcontroller based storage, whereas your performance will be higher comparative with a hard drive. Similarly, your cost also will get vary by using standard hard drive and then SSDs. Clear, guys? Any questions with that? I just want to show you an image so that you will get understand how exactly it looks like. This is a typical hard drive, guys. If you see my screen, this is a spindle. Actually, this round one is a spindle where it will rotate when you are reading some data, when you're copying the data, when you are deleting the data, right? When you are just trying to take out some kind of a data. So it will, for that, your spindle will rotate and then get the data. But if you see the SSDs, you have kind of all will be controller based, microcontroller based mechanism where the storage will be pretty much faster and performance will be good. Your input and output, read and write operations will be very good when it compared to hard drives. Hope you guys might have seen this hard drives, external hard drives earlier and now. While you're purchasing this external hard drives, you could see in a description that it's a standard hard drive or a premium hard drive, HDD or SSD. SSDs will be costlier, right? Have you ever notified these things? Noticed?
Yes, Surendra, I see this.
Venkat, Shiva, able to follow?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So when I'm saying premium SSDs, so when I'm using SSDs means I need to pay extra money when the cloud is giving more benefit of providing, let's say, higher benefit of performance, then they will charge you more on that. So I will take you to the a screen of pricing sheet as well. There is a calculator which is available to the public internet where we could calculate the cost for your Azure services, but I will take you for a storage related costing understanding. I will take you to that particular cost calculation. So in next 2 sessions, we'll take you to that. By the time you will understand what is the actual difference between when it comes to cost for your premium disk and as well as standard disk. Clear? Next option is delete with OM. So what will happen if you enable this? Whenever you create a virtual machine, your associated OS disk also will get deleted automatically. If I unselect this, what will happen? As a virtual machine, logical name will go away, your compute will go away, you will be stopped charging for it, but your OS disk still be exist. So that tomorrow, if you want to bring your virtual machine with the existing disk, you can bring it up. Clear, guys? With this option. So what can be done with instead of creating from a marketplace, selecting an operating system, you can use your OS disk alone to create a virtual machine as well. So for that, this option will be helpful. If you are unselecting this, what will happen? When you are creating a virtual machine by default, your disk will not be get deleted. Your disk will be highly available. you need to explicitly go ahead and delete it if you're not needed, because once you delete the services in cloud, it cannot be get it back.
Okay, for example, if I want to delete the VM image, will it be charged for that as well? Like,
no, you will be not charged for your CPU and memory, which you are going to assign for your virtual machine.
Okay.
Once you delete it, that is the huge cost actually. When
Okay.
I say your virtual machine cost, right? So that is your CPU and memory cost only. As soon as you delete it, that cost will go away.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So next one is encryptionist host. This particular thing is not available for now, right? So what will happen? It will encrypt your within the operating system level, right? If you want to encrypt this particular your OS, temporary disk, caching files, and other stuff, this option can be selected. So seems to be I didn't selected the size over there. It depends on my virtual machine sizing, whether that does support for my encryption at a host level. Okay. You could see one more encryption type here. When you could see this encryption type, are you able to see encryption at rest with a platform managed key? And second option is encryption at rest with a customer managed, double encryption with combination of both platform and customer managed. What it means is that when they're saying by default, you have a encryption at rest with a platform managed key. At rest in the sense where they are referring, guys, at a physical data center storage level. At rest in the sense it is the very first layer of your data. There by default, the disk of whatever the storage you have been selecting here for your operating system, that particular storage is encrypted. Right? So
Here
to
encrypted
encrypt
means
that,
SSH encryption, or what type of encryption is it?
no, it is whatever you are referring as SSH encryption, right? 256
Right.
bit encryption. So that encryption and the keys of the encryption will be handling by who? Microsoft. That is what they are referring as a platform managed. It means if someone is physically stolen our physical drive in a data center in a Microsoft, your data will not be decrypted until or unless Microsoft is sharing the key. Clear? Assume that in your security team that why we need to depend on a Microsoft to manage our storage keys to encrypt and decrypt. Let we manage our keys by ourselves. Right? In such cases, you could go ahead and select the customer managed key. When I say the customer managed key, what will happen? We need to select the encryption set. So when I say the encryption set, so let me show you. This is also a simple service of just provide a name and a location. So you can create one encryption set. So that encryption set is needed if someone wants to take over the data also, unless you have the data with you or key with you, like no one can use the data. So this is a disk encryption sets. When I say the disk encryption set to go ahead and create, are you able to see here? This is all giving me an options to give a name of it, encryption type customer managed, and both platform and customer managed. Here to generate the key, you need a key vault. Right? Again, for the key vault, you need to create separate resource. We'll talk about what is mean by key vault, how you can manage your keys there, certificates there, username and passwords in the key vault. Key vault is a password management tool, right? That passwords can be your username and password that will support for your certificates, SSL certificates for your organization or for your application. Along with that, it does also support your SSH keys as well. Right? We have dedication session on it where we'll talk about all those things. But for now, just understand that for your virtual machine, physical disk at a rest at a data center level, you have an option of encryption. By default, it's the platform managed. When I say the platform managed, Who is owning the platform? It's a Microsoft. So the Microsoft handling the encryption. So if you're not comfortable with the Microsoft with some reasons with an organization, you could go ahead and select the platform. Sorry, platform managed will be managed by Microsoft. Customer in the sense we as a customer, we need to manage our encryption keys. To enable that encryption key, first you need to create a encryption set. To create an encryption set, you should have one more component dependency called key vault, where you could maintain your usernames and passwords, secrets, as well as certificates and keys. Is that clear, guys, with the encryption type?
So I have a question here. See, for after for example, if I selected as managed by Microsoft, right? The option one. So later on, if I feel that service was not good, I mean, organization says some data was they're sensitive and we need to manage ourselves. Can I change it?
No.
Encryption type later?
No. This is a one-time setup actually.
So one-time setup only. We can't change at any point. Okay.
Yeah, because in the typical, to change it in the back end, it requires your entire data to be decrypted and encrypted with the new key. Okay. That's typically kind of hindrance effort and it affects your application and other stuff. Normally, dealing with encryption itself is not recommended.
Okay.
Okay, unless you have very critical data and you want to have an encryption. Otherwise, I don't see that it's really in a needed scenario.
Okay.
Okay. So next option, you could see that. So I'm just selecting platform manage. Next option we have enable ultra disk compatibility. So ultra disk is, it will give a more performance than your premium SSDs. Is an ultra a disk where you need to pay extra as I mentioned, but you will get good amount of performance. But this is not enabled for us scenario because we selected DS1 V2. This size is not compatible for ultra disk. If we just go through our virtual machine sizing, whereas you could easily able to identify, you can easily able to identify that ultra disk compatible. It will say compatible, not compatible, all the options. You could find them right at the virtual machine sizing overview window. Okay, guys. Next option you could see here a data disk. So whatever we discussed here, it is only about OS disk. If you just notice here, what it is referring here, it's only a OS disk. Right? So we cannot run the application with only an operating system level, right? We should have our data drives as well. That is your D drive, E drive, F drive. You might have noticed in your application service, right? That drives you can add it here as part of your virtual machine provisioning. If not, you could go ahead and add as and when it's needed to your virtual machine. That is quite possible, right? If you want to create a disk here, you just go ahead and create and assign the disk. Why it is not allowing? Because I'm not filled up the data in my basics tab. So I'm just saying that VM01 high availability. I will select I don't need an high availability. Sorry. Just need the username and password. And then disk. So if at all we want to add up a disk now itself, you can click and create a disk here so that it will ask you with the name, whatever the name, if you want to edit, you can edit, or else it by default it will take a syntax of VM name and a data disk it is 0 and subsequent disk will be changed accordingly. And the source type is empty disk. If you are not copying it from a different disk, for now you can go with the empty disk. By default selected premium SSD and 1 TB of storage. If at all you want to change it, you don't need, for example, data drive, you think that you don't need, right? You don't need a premium SSD. You go with the standard hard drive itself. It is only some kind of dumping the data. It is not production application. You are not intended to spend the money for it. So you can select the standard hard drive and sizing also. You could see it defines from a S segment standard drives, S4 to S80, 32 GB, 64 GB, 128 GB. Like that, the series will be highly available. If at all we are not happy with the available size, you can come here and then select your sizing. Let's say 512 GB is the S20. You are not happy with the 512 as a number, you change it to the 500. That's not a problem. So that always can be changed and migrated your data. So Chiranjeevi, let's say in this particular scenario, your question you've been asking that once after the deployments are live, change the tires. So when it comes to storage disks, yes, you could change the tires. Let's say today you feel it is not important to select a standard hard drive. Tomorrow you feel that it's been critical, you want to upgrade it to the standard SSD or premium SSD, you can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Only for the disk, I mean, data disk, not for the OS.
Any disk. I mean,
any disk.
Any disk, it is have an option to upgrade or downgrade your tier of your disk.
Only issue comes with the encryption part alone.
Yeah,
Rest
when you're having an encryption, that's where there's a problem comes in. And this encryption is similar whenever you have a disk where the platform managed, customer managed, double encryption, all other stuff. Shared disk, let's say when we're having some kind of a clusters where it requires a disk to be shared across all the your disk to be shared across multiple virtual machines, right? Same one disk. In such cases, you could enable this option. Again, the size it differs on the size what we get select. If the basic size if you select and you want to use a shared disk as an option, it won't support. Okay. And next one is similar option, delete the disk with the VM. If at all you need it, you can select it. Otherwise, it's not required. So this is how you typically, if you want to create now as part of a VM provisioning, you can do that. If you not assume that you create a VM later on, you can always have an option to create a disk and attach it. Or is there any other additional disks? For example, you have an option here attaching existing disk also. So either ways, whatever the mechanism, you could make use of it to add your data drives. It can be a D drive, E drive, F drive to your machine. Yeah. Any questions, guys, with the disk tab, with all the options, whatever we have discussed?
What is that option that post caching?
So where you are referring?
No, the same like above the create and attach a new disk, right? Yeah.
Okay, this is the properties you are referring, right?
Just LUNs I am aware of. Is
No,
fine,
it
but
is
what
LUN
is
is nothing but your disk only. So
I know. I mean, that's what that technology I'm aware of, but what is post cache?
This caching is something it will help you out to provide performance, improve your performance by selecting this read only, read and write option. So what will happen? It in the physical host level, it will maintain in the backend. These virtual machines are running on a physical hardware, correct?
Yeah.
On top of that physical hardware, if you select this read-only option, what will happen? Whatever you do in a read operations on this disk, and a host level, it will maintain the cache. So that whenever you are reading the same data again and again, it will not require to go back and give you the service from a physical disk. It will try to give it from a host cache itself. That will improve your performance. This is performance-oriented settings.
Okay.
Yeah. Just give me 1 minute. Yeah. Any other questions with the disk tab? Okay. So if there is no questions, we'll take this one as an opportunity and then we'll talk about all storage related concept as part of, as we just discussed about disks, right? Let's go ahead and talk about all the storage related components in cloud, and then we'll go back to the next tab, that is your networking tab. Clear, folks? Yeah. So when it comes to storage in Azure, so apart from your C drive and D drive in Azure, you have an option of to use your dedicated storage for your application or whatever the requirement you do have, right? In Azure, we'll call them as the storage accounts. When I say the storage accounts, currently we have available as only version 2, right? Version 1 and blob storage is like kind of a legacy ones, which they have taken out. What is mean by version 1 and why where version 2 came into the picture? That is because per GB cost, right? Let's say 1 TB you are charging for $20 in a version 2. In a version 1, that per GB cost will be $25, right? The per GB cost will be cheaper in version 2, higher in version 1. Why it is higher? Because we have separate tiers of your storage. Purpose of the storage, those options is available in a version 2. In version 1, it doesn't matter whatever the purpose you use. If you are consuming for 1 TB, you will be paid for the particular cost irrespective of a purpose what you make. We'll talk about them in detail anyway in our sessions. All right, shall I go ahead and create a storage account and then see what are the different set of options we do have? So now I'm going to create a resource. This time I'm going to select my storage account as a service.
So I have a question here. We already created a disk, right? Disk we have created, like, we have, I mean, in the configuration setup, we already have these things done. Why again the storage account?
Yeah, I will explain. In the next 5-10 minutes, I will explain that. Right. So this particular storage is not referencing to your virtual machine disks actually. It is altogether separate service as a storage. The storage, again, you have multiple types of a storage. Right. We'll discuss in this session itself. Let me go ahead and create this and then I will explain what are the different types of storages we have. Okay. So as part of creation of your storage account, as I mentioned, basic things is selecting a subscription, selecting a resource group is mandatory. So I'm just picking up my Air India tab as by default. If at all you want, you can change it. Next one is storage account name. So when I come to storage account name in Azure, this name should be unique name. This name cannot be used by someone else in entire Azure, not only with your own subscription or own tenant, or if any customer in Azure cannot be used this name, right? This name should always be unique. So why it is unique this name? Because in Azure, your storage content can be accessed over the internet with the help of URL. It means if you are dumping 10 files as one Word file, one Notepad file, one MP3 file, one MP4 file, let's say one log, whatever the files you dumped, that data can be read over the internet by using an URL, right? That like kind of a web page URL, how you are accessing portal.azure.com, there is a URL to access your storage. That is the reason as we are accessing over the internet, that name should not be allowed by duplicate names. Like we don't have multiple google.coms, right? We'll have URL will always be unique at any point in time because that is not allowed by the system itself by design. If you have one domain, that domain cannot be used by someone else. Best example is we have tcs.com as a domain. That domain cannot be used by multiple people because that domain might be purchased, registered by TCS as an organization. Here, let's say best example. I want to give a name called training. What it is saying with the error? When I give a training as the name of my storage.
Okay. It's just like domain, right? Okay. It's already created.
So it is saying that someone is already using this word. Right? Let's say I'm just giving a test, for example. So this is the very common words, right? Test, training. Is anyone can use, not referring the two. I am giving a training, I should only use the name. It's not like it's kind of an entire world. Many people can be using training, test is the very basic keywords, correct? So these, one of the prerequisites when you are creating, right? It should be always the name should be in a queue. Okay. Next option is we should be cautious about it will not allow any special characters and capital letters. Let's say I want to use a name called AZT27 is my storage account name. Is it been taken now? It is not given any error, correct? Assume that if the AZT, what are the keywords? I'm just mentioning as capital letters. What it is saying now? It will allow only lower cases and numbers, not special characters and capital letters are allowed. These are two things you should be remembered. So I'm just giving AZT27. So AZT27 is a keyword with the storage account name. As of today, no one is used. That's why it is allowing me to make use of it. Next one is region. That is you are used to US by default. So if you want to change it to any region, whatever you feel like to, you can have an option to change the region. All right. So when it comes to performance of your storage, you have your standard as well as premium. So this is pretty much straightforward. What we have discussed, standard drives will use in the backend. SATA drives, when you're setting premium, it uses a microcontroller based storage. It will give more performance. Right. Next one is redundancy. So redundancy in the sense, if you guys remember, as part of our virtual machine creation, we have seen a high availability option. Right. What we have discussed high availability options as part of VM provisioning. Your
availability zone and availability
sets, correct? Availability sets and availability zones. Similarly, when it comes to your storage also, it requires a high availability, right? Why it requires high availability? Because somewhere it is storing at a physical data center only, correct? It is not something on a virtual, right? When I'm storing some data, I need somewhere physical space. Is that understanding correct? Right? How we will provide high availability on a physical layer, right? By default, what are the different types of redundancy options we'll discuss. So we have something called default. One is local redundant storage LRS. It means what it will do, it will maintain 3 copies within a data center of your same data. Right? 3 copies. I mean, let's say you are copying one notepad file. That notepad file in the backend, they will maintain 3 copies so that at any point in time within a data center, any storage device has a problem or it's been corrupted, whatever the reasons it got failure, your data will be uninterrupted. You have 2 more copies readily available to serve the business. Clear with the local redundant storage? Where it is a scenario of you are having only one data center. Assume that you have selected a location where does that support of availability zone concept, where you can select the zone redundant storage. So what is mean by zone redundant storage? It will replicate your data into 3 different data centers, that is 3 different zones in the same region. So I will take back to the same example of my availability zone. So what will happen in this scenario? Your data will be kept one copy in a zone 1, another copy in a zone 2, another copy in zone 3. Same 3 copies, instead of keeping in one data center, your data will be segregated across the availability zones of 3 zones, nothing but 3 data center within a region, so that at any point in time, entire data center goes down also, your storage data will be highly available. Clear? With the ZRS as an redundant option. Next one is geo-redundant. Geo-redundant will come into the picture when, right? Assume that you need a high availability when the entire region goes down. It means entire Central India, entire Singapore, entire US to US is goes down, and you want to have a high availability. In such kind of scenarios, we could opt for geo-redundant storage. What will happen with the geo-redundant? You will be have 3 copies in a local data center and 3 more copies in a different geographic location as well. Right? It means 3 copies in a local data center. Let's say I'm selecting Central India as my primary region. 3 copies will be saved in a local data center. 3 more copies, let's say geo-redundant means if I select somewhere Europe location, so 3 more copies will be saved at a Europe data center. So that if something went bad in a primary region of Central India, entire Central India is down, is affected with some kind of a floods or whatever the reason, your data will be highly available. 3 more copies at a different geographic region. Only thing is you need to be cautious is your cost will be double because you are maintaining 3 copies in local, 3 more additional copies in a different data center, so that your cost, whatever you are paying for a $10 for your storage, it will become double as a $20. But it will be helpful when you have production critical data or production critical storage. You want to maintain highly available at any point in time. Such cases you could go with the geo-redundant storage. Is it clear, guys? What is mean by geo-redundant storage?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Fourth one is read access geo-redundant. So it is similar to geo-redundant only. So whenever something happens to the primary region, so what will happen? Your data will be only read access in a secondary region. It will not be writable. So it is some scenarios if you don't want to do any changes when the disaster happens, you want to just have a read access. In such cases, you could go with that option. Okay, you also have a combination of this option. Let's say GZRS. What is mean by GZRS? In a local, instead of maintaining 3 copies in a local data center, it will maintain in 3 different zones, and then it will maintain 3 more copies in a different geographic region. That will called as a GZRS. It is a combination of zone and geo-redundant storage. So that's what happened. By default selected GRS, whereas you need to pay extra amount for it because you will be maintaining 2 different regions, physical regions, maintaining same data. So your cost will be double. So that's where I will always go with the LRS for our trainings, local redundant storage. That is more than enough for me. In your real-time scenario also, do remember until unless you feel it's a very critical data, do not enable this geo-redundant because your cost will actually being a double the cost of your standard cost. I will take you to the storage kind of a calculator for your data. By the time you will get more understanding in next session that I will do. Okay. Any questions so far? Next thing is, this is what the question which is been raised, Chiranjeevi, right? Why we have anyway C drive and D drive, why the additional component of a storage account? This is what your question earlier?
Yes.
So apart from your C drive and D drive that is belongs to an operating system, right? Let's say you have some TBs of a data with you, for example, Chiranjeevi, and you want to maintain it in a cloud. So typically with your scenario, what you will do, you will create a VM, create a C drive and D drive, and then copy the data, correct? In this scenario, you are paying for your virtual machine, for your CPU and memory, based on the size which you get select. and the disk's cost, what you have been selected of amount of a disk size based on type, premium and a standard, you will be charged for it. And then you need a Windows engineer, Windows administrator to maintain the server as well again, right? To mitigate that, to provide high availability and high kind of an ease to the customers. So Microsoft is offering storage as separate service where if your requirement is only dumping the data, manage the data, in such cases, you don't need to create a server and manage, you directly go and opt for the service. When I say opt for this service, what will happen? You have 4 different kinds of storages. So blob storage is nothing but it will be used to store all your unstructured data. When I say unstructured data, what it means, it can be anything, you name it anything, like your data files, log files, MP4, video files, image files, right? Disk files, whatever you name it, all the category of a storage will come under a blob storage. I mean, all your unstructured data. Clear, guys? In that blob, by default, you have 2 types. One is blob. We'll call them, will be store all your unstructured data, any data you name it. Second type, you have something called page blob. Right? Page blob in the sense, this is nothing but your virtual machine disk files. Right? When I say disk files, what is the format of a disk, guys? For your VHD in the backend as a virtualization product, your disk file will be VM name or a name of the disk. Disk name format will be VHD. This is the format. So any file, if you're copying to your Azure storage account with the format of .vhd, that blob will call it as a page blob. Rest all other categories of data will be fall under blob. Clear, guys? Make a note of it for an interview sake. When it comes to under the blob, we have 2 types. One is blob, another one is page blob. Next kind of storage, you have something called queue storage. So queues is something where you have an application of asynchronous based applications where you want to process the request one after another, right? In such cases, right, you could go ahead and choose this queues, messaging related services and applications. You could make use of a queue storage. Third one is table storage. So table storage will be used for your structured data, NoSQL data. If you want to store somewhere, you could use table as a category of a storage. Okay. Fourth one is file shares. So this file shares seems to be everybody is aware of it in nowadays. So you will be having network drives will be attached to your laptops or your servers in your real-time scenario. Network drives, file shares, your project, your team's data will be placed under a shared folder. Have you guys using that? Chiranjeevi, Venkat.
Yes.
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 So when I say the network drive, so that is required to maintain a file server, distribute to DFS as a service within that operating system, maintaining one engineer dedicatedly of your file shares and other stuff, right? Same service. If you equivalent service in Azure will call it as a file share. When I say the file share, what it will happen? Azure will maintain for you in the backend all the components. You just create a file share with just giving a name and data size, and then you map this as a network drive anywhere in the world, wherever you have internet. You don't need to be sitting in the organization. First thing, you don't need to be cautious about your server where this data being available or managing this. Nothing you need to worry. Everything will be handled by Microsoft. You can just go ahead and create. When I say the create, you just give a name and size of your file share. That file share can be mapped to any operating system like Windows, Linux, Mac, right, across the world. from the internet. If you just have internet connectivity, you are good to access the file share from anywhere in the world. When I say the typical legacy network drives, mapping network drives where you could use them, you will only use it within your organization. And if you're not there in the company, if you're not connected to the VPN, your file server or network drive will not be connected. Is that correct? If you're not in an organization, your network drive will not be accessible. You should be sitting at your organization. If not, worst scenario, you should be connected to the VPN. Then only your network drives will be connected. Otherwise, it will not connect because those are all within your network file shares. But when it comes to Azure file shares, the internet-based file shares, you can connect it from anywhere in the world to your. You can map it to any system based with the help of internet connectivity. That is the main advantage of file shares. So these are all 4 different kinds of storages which we do have in Azure, which does offer to the customers. Right? As part of our sessions, we're going to talk about blobs and file shares, how to create, how to access them, how to map them, what are the different ways of managing using a portal, using a CLI, using separate utility called Storage Explorer. All those things we'll talk about in next subsequent sessions. Is that answered your question, Chiranjeevi? Why we need this as storage accounts?
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. Under a storage, again, if you see we are in a basics tab only, we have an advanced tab here. So when it comes to advanced, right, we have something called requires secure transfer for REST API operations. So by default, it's been enabled. When I say secure transfer in the sense, if the API from application level, if somebody is trying to connect our storage account, if the call is coming from a HTTP based call, it will deny. As I have enabled allowed only request secure transfer, it means it will allow only HTTPS based calls only. Right? Next option is enable blob public access. As I mentioned, your data can be accessed over the internet using an URL, right? Your video files, audio files, text files, PPT files, Word files, whatever the file you name it, that file can be accessed over the internet by default. If you disable this option, what will happen? Public access will be disabled. You cannot access it over the internet. Clear? I'm just enabling it for now so that we'll see the use cases in a subsequent sessions. Next one is storage account key access. It is something like to access the storage instead of our login username and a password, our RBAC role. It has its own key and a password for it for every storage account. So by default it is enabled. It can also be used to manage your storage account. Right, default to Azure Active Directory authorization in the Azure portal. So as I mentioned, if you just enable it, what will happen? It will use your RBAC role, that is whatever we have been discussed, role-based access control. That roles will come into the picture to manage your storage account when it comes to access and permissions. Next one is TLS version. So TLS is transport layer security. We'll call them as a TLS in a shortcut. It has a versions like 1.0, 1.1, 1.2. Latest is 1.2. It depends on the application. If your application is latest, your application is running a TLS version of 1.2, you need to select the TLS version as 1.2 so that it is compatible and it will work the connectivity. Right? If at all, if there is a mismatch, you will be get a problem. These changes can be done once after creation also from a drop down selecting 1.0, 1.1 and 1.2. Next option is data lake. So we are not discussing this as part of our sessions. Data lake, data bricks and other components. These will be used for your big data analytics, for your ETL. You might have heard like Informatica related, right? Equivalent services in a cloud. You could go ahead and enable this as a namespace in Azure storage. Okay. So when it comes to blob storage, if you see that enable SFTP, SFTP is for There's a FTP client side, secure file transfer protocols. If you want to use it, you could use them. So as we are not enable this data lake, so this option is not applicable for it. You have something called enable network file system, NFS. This is storage level of file system. So if at all your application intended or they want only a file system of NFS, they require only NFS as their file system to store the data, read the data, this option has to be enabled. By default, it will be disabled only. If at all you need it, you need to enable this NFS. Right? Allow cross-tenant replication. So as we are in a one tenant for TCS.com, or you want to enable the application data replication, right? Whatever we discussed about GRS, ZRS, GZRS. So these replication, instead of replicating within your company tenant, you want to replicate a region of other storage account in a different organization tenant. Yes, if you want, in such cases, you can enable this option. Next option is access tiers. So this is where the things will come into the picture. Tomorrow I will show you the cost difference of hot tier, cool tier, and we have one more tier called archival tier. So what it means, these tiers for us, right? Let's say I am storing 1 TB of a data. I'm using it with the hot tier. What will happen? I will select it whenever I want to access my data frequently. What I mean, if I want to access the data, read and write operations very frequently, I will go with a hot tier. When I will go with the cool tier, whenever I say that I don't need this data immediately, I'm okay to access this data infrequently. It is not frequent, but it's very frequent, a kind of infrequent access the data. You could keep them in a cool tier. You have one more tier called archival tier. So why you need an archival tier? Assume that you will not access the data at all. You will just dump the data. You will access it very rarely. Right? It is very rarely if you are being accessing the data. Right? In such cases, you could go with the archival tier. It is not listed here. I will explain you, not a problem. Right? Archival tier, I will show you how and why. But why we need these tiers? Why can't it? Why I need a different kinds of a tiers for me? Because let's say if you are paying for $20 for a hard tier, for a cool tier you will pay only for $10. For an archival tier you will pay for $2. Are you getting the cost as a cheaper for you instead of paying similar cost if you access or not access based on your need and necessity? You will reduce the cost for your business. That is the main agenda of bringing in these access tiers. These access tier option, storage account version 1, we don't have. It is available only under version 2. Clear guys with the access tiers? Any questions? Tomorrow I will show you how exactly the cost also will be vary by selecting these tiers, by selecting the standard and premium, by selecting the LRS, GRS, ZRS. All those things I will show you so that you will have more understanding when it comes to billing and costing. Okay, is it clear? Any questions? Next one is file shares. So when I say the file share, we just discussed, right? File shares will be used to access by mapping as a network drive anywhere in the world, right? By just having internet connectivity, you go ahead and add as a network drive. So the size of a file shares by default, it does support up to 5 TB by default. If at all you want to have more than 5 TB, hundreds of TB as a network drive to a system. So what is mean by network drive, guys? I'm referring, this is, let's say if I go to my PC here, you could see C drive and G drive. This is a physical drive. This is my Google Drive. I'm just attaching as a physical disk to my system. And this is my physical disk, which is there in my laptop, that is C drive. Google Drive, G drive is coming from my Google. If you see network drives, it is also comes from an internet. We'll call them as a network drives. Okay, so that you can add as a network drives to your machine. 1 second. So you can add like C drive and G drive. You can add one more drive by creating a file share in the Azure storage account. By default, the size of your storage account file share is 5 TB. If at all you want to create large file share with 100 TB of size, you could enable this. You could see that, right? Provide file share support up to maximum of 100 TB. If you want, you can enable it. Otherwise, it is not needed. Any questions with the advanced tab, guys? Yeah. Next one is networking. For now, you just leave this particular networking area alone. We'll discuss when it comes to networking concept. You will get understand all these options. For now, you just leave these concepts. These are data protection. So when I say the data protection in your Azure blobs and file shares, you are tend to add data, delete data, modify the data, right? So let's say I'm having one notepad file. If I want to delete that particular file, if I want to remove that particular file today, and after 2 days, I feel that it is been important for me. I want that particular file back once again. In such cases, what I will do typically, if I use these options called soft delete options, right? For a blob storage, containers will discuss what is meant by container. This is also related to blob. So what these options will help you guys is that whenever you delete some files by enabling this soft delete option, your data will not be deleted permanently. Your data will still be available with the option as 7 days. Still you have this number can be changed to till 1 year. 1 year is the maximum, right? When I say it, we're saying that 1 and 365 days. So maximum you can maintain the soft delete option. So when I mean soft delete as an option, it means your data will be not be deleted in the backend. They will maintain it based on number of days you give. Let's see if I give 10 days, what will happen? My data will be highly available in the backend for 10 days. Also, I deleted the file. I can recover it for next 10 days. It's something kind of a backup for your storage of your blob storage, similar to your file shares as well. Is it clear?
Is there any size limit for that?
Which size you are referring, Chiranjeevi?
See, when you say like no, we deleted like say 1 TB or 2 TB down the line, when you say 365 days, what I mean size it holds actually. Is there any limit for the data
I don't,
retention?
as per my knowledge, there is no limitation for your Azure blobs. It is unlimited storage.
Unlimited. Okay.
It is today you might be storing 1 TB. Tomorrow, if you are storing for 200 TB of a data, you no need to worry. You don't need to inform to anybody.
No, not for storing. When you
No,
delete, like the
yeah,
options to delete, right? So we
delete.
don't how many files. See, delete is like copying a file. Like we will just look for the size. Deleting, like what size it holds. That's my question.
No, it is the same size only. So
Same thing.
whatever the
Same thing.
file, yeah, whatever the file you copy, you need a backup for the same file only. So it doesn't have any issues with the sizing.
Okay.
Okay. Apart from this, you have versioning. If you see here,
What is a container? Like, can you scroll a little up?
container is also part of your blob storage only. We'll discuss that. So
Okay.
what is mean by blobs? We discuss it, right? Container is equal to your folders actually under a blob storage.
Okay.
We'll show you in tomorrow's session. Once after storage account creation is done, I'm navigating to the blobs. I will create a containers. I will upload a file, download a file, access a file, right? All those things we'll see practically.
Okay.
Okay. Container is nothing but for now, an understanding is a folder. It's a blob folder. When I say the disk also, you will be maintaining some folders, right? Documents, movies, MP4. Similarly, in your blob also, you need to maintain some folder. It is not like you dump everything just like that, correct? So those will call the containers actually. Apart from that, you have tracking as well, where you could maintain your change feed as whenever you do some kind of a create a file, modify a file, delete a file, everything will be recorded if you just enable this change feed. Similarly, you can enable this versioning so that in the backend Azure will maintain version 1, 1.1, 1.0, 1.2, 2.1, 2.0. This kind of versioning also, if you wish like to manage for your files in Azure storage, you could enable these options. Okay. So I'm not enabling this backup itself first in place. I don't need them. Soft delete and other stuff. So if at all you need it, the maximum time it does support for 1 year. So encryption again, if you see both the options are similar, like Microsoft managed keys and then customer managed keys, we'll call them as MMK, Microsoft CMK, customer managed. Right? When I say if you want to enable like customer managed keys, it is available only for blobs only. It is not available like by default selected blobs. If you want to enable this customer managed key in case, right, you have an option to explicitly you need to select that blobs, files, tables, and queues, all storage. I want to manage my encryption. I don't want to allow Microsoft to manage it. By default, it's only for blobs and files. If at all you want to do it for queues and tables also, you need to select this option explicitly. Okay. Again, it is on a base storage level. You have one more option on additional layer of security of enabling, right? These options, if you see as a one, these options cannot be changed. As you asked, no, once after you have done with the creation and the configuration, if you want to change this encryption types, it is always be not be possible. If you could see here as a warning that this option cannot be changed after the storage account is created. Right. Similarly, you can enable the infrastructure encryption as well. So when I mean at a rest or infrastructure second layer of security, one layer is already encryption with the Microsoft managed and a customer managed. With the infrastructure, one more layer of a security. If you wish like to have second layer of a security, you could enable these options. But once after you enable, this is not be possible to disable it. So make sure you when you're selecting these options, sir, really necessary because it typically affects your performance of your data because whenever you want to read a data, you want to go decrypt and read the data. Whenever you want to write a data, similar. Whenever you want to export the data, every time your key has to be there, encrypt and decrypt and then solve the business. Right? That is one thing. But at the other hand, you will get a enhanced security for your storage and the data. Yeah. Next one is tags is pretty much common what we have been discussed. It is available for across all your services. You could see whatever we have been discussed from a basics to creation tab, all the things you could see them in a single window. If you wish like to change and modify, you can go back and modify it and then click on create a storage. So creation of a storage account, it won't take much of a time, all right? It will take hardly a couple of minutes. Your storage account will be created. So in tomorrow's session, do remind me that we'll see the cost calculator for your storage that give you more understanding of the types, tires, and all other things. So your storage account is ready. This is how it looks like, guys. AZT27. This is how your overview, local redundant, and all other stuff. So tomorrow's session we'll talk about blobs, containers, file shares, and all other stuff. Accessing using a portal. We'll see managing and accessing using a portal first scenario. We'll also see configure and manage using a tool called Storage Explorer. This is the one. Third option is we'll also see how using command line using some kind of easy commands